Bloomington Go is in the middle of nowhere, literally. It's in the
What?
Greenbelt, a protected green space and urban growth boundary for the Greater Toronto Area, which is theoretically not supposed to have any new development in it. This train station is absolutely
Oh
massive.
my
It
God.
has a large surface parking lot with a kiss and ride area for people being dropped off by car.
Do you think this is part of the Greenbelt plans of development? Like, why would they build this infrastructure in the middle of nowhere? It's a wonderful day in the homiehood, a wonderful day for a homie. Won't you be my homie to Taro? Makes me jealous of some of the Euro cities with bike lanes everywhere, like Amsterdam. Even Montreal is way better. Yes, I agree. I love watching like videos about how great the infrastructure is in Norway and stuff. And I'm like, why don't we do that? Why don't we do that in Canada? We just because we don't care about quality of life. There's a great YouTube channel called Not Just Bikes. I hate driving into the GTA. Oh yeah, this one here. You can see the Go Transit. The trains that subsidize suburbia. Go Transit commuter rail.
In the previous video, we talked about Via Rail, the intercity train service in Canada, and why it's really hard to justify taking the train instead of driving. I took Via Rail again this summer, and though they didn't ask me to weigh my bags, they do have a check-in process now. One step closer to making train travel as painful as airline travel. And due to corona restrictions, the 7 trains per day from London to Toronto has been reduced to 3 trains per day. Did you miss your train to
Damn.
Toronto? That's okay, there's another one coming. In 9 hours.
That's absolutely brutal. That's like you might as well just drive, right? PT Noodle saying I sometimes dream of one of the lanes being chopped off Yonge Street and being converted into a two-way bike lane and the other lane being turned into a tram. Yeah, for real. It's like I dream of stuff like that too. I'm like, hey, you know what would be better use than having all of these lanes just for cars? Literally anything.
But enough about Via Rail. In this video, I want to talk about the least terrible heavy rail trains in Canada, Go Transit. Go Transit is a commuter rail service run by the Government of Ontario, G-O, Go. Get it? It's
Oh, I get it now.
right there in the name. These days, the infrastructure and trains are managed by Metrolinx, the government agency responsible for regional travel in the Greater Toronto Area. Go also operates a network of buses, but these run on regular roads and routinely get stuck in traffic, so they're really not that interesting. Let's talk about trains. As a rider, taking the Go train is quite nice. The stations are clean and well maintained. The trains are 2 levels with plenty of space and comfortable seats.
Didn't know that either. It makes so much sense. It's actually a really good branding because obviously it like the word itself go applies to commuting.
Trips can be paid for using the Presto card, a contactless payment card used for public transit in several cities in Ontario. In general, the experience is pretty good and it sure beats driving in Toronto traffic.
Toronto traffic sucks.
And you don't even need to weigh your bags, book an advance ticket, or queue to board. It's like a real train.
Wow.
Several GO stations are also Via Rail stations, so you can theoretically connect to other train services. That is, if you happen to be leaving at that one time Via decides to run a train. One thing that GO does very well is accessibility for wheelchair users. Every station has a designated area that has level boarding for wheelchair access, and there are good quality elevator connections at most stations.
That is true. I do appreciate that as well.
It is strange to me, though, that they know how to build level boarding, but only do it at this one accessibility car. Why not along the whole platform?
That does make sense. I think the reason is that the one of the people working on the train has to specifically come out and make that ramp between the platform and the train, and they only have like one staff on each train. They might have someone in the conductor thing as well.
But beyond the step-up boarding, one thing that really annoyed me when trying to take a bicycle on the train is this bar in the middle of the doorway that gets in the way when trying to board with a bicycle. Yet on some doors, including doors that don't allow bicycles, they don't have that bar. Why? Why Metrolinx? Why do you
Why?
do this to us? The history of GO Transit is similar to commuter rail in the US. After the Second World War, US and Canadian cities heavily subsidized car infrastructure and didn't care that they were bankrupting passenger rail, which was seen as obsolete. But by the 1960s, it was pretty clear, in major cities at least, that this was a bad idea, because there wasn't enough room for all the cars. So commuter rail lines, like the GO train, were created for one purpose: to reduce the number of suburban commuters on the roads during rush hour. By that metric, the GO train is a huge success. For people who live in the suburbs but work in downtown Toronto, 67% take the GO train, while only 20% go by car as a driver or passenger. That's a lot of cars taken off the road. Unfortunately, while commuter rail does a good job of servicing suburban 9 to 5 commuters who work downtown, it is almost useless for any other kind of trip. For example, the graph for suburbanites who work anywhere other than downtown Toronto looks like this, with almost 90% of people going by car and only 1% who take the GO train. So by this metric, the GO train is a colossal failure. Commuter rail is only built.
Wait, what is that stat again? Commute mode share from Toronto suburbs to non-downtown. Ah, right.
Colossal failure.
You have to drive to the train.
Commuter rail is only built to bring suburban commuters downtown. So if you want to travel from one suburban station to another suburban station, you need to travel via downtown. But this trip wouldn't be possible anyway, as it's common to see schedules like this.
So this is the same problem that we have in Peterborough with our bus system, right? It's like there's a central hub, and in order to get anywhere else in the city, you have to first go to that central hub, which can add a lot of time to your trip.
4 trains out in the morning, then those 4 trains come back in the afternoon. Want to travel outside of these times or in the opposite direction? Too bad. My European viewers hearing this might ask, isn't building an entire heavy rail network, buying and maintaining rolling stock, and staffing the trains and stations a huge waste of money just to run a few trains per day? And to that I say, yes it is. These trains sit here all day, doing nothing, and taking up some of the most valuable real estate.
Right, they did change the system, and they were considering going back to that system. So they still need to obviously invest more money in it, but that was once the problem. And if you think of that problem on like a large scale, like in the GTA, it's not really good.
In the entire country, just so that they're ready for the afternoon when they'll be used to take suburbanites back to their cars.
Hey, Rabbit Ribbit Lamb, good morning.
This is insane.
This is pretty insane.
Systems like GO Transit are what I like to call car-dependent transit. That is, transit that only works, or at least
Hey, good morning, Matt Perf. Hope you're well.
works best, if you're already driving. There's nothing inherently wrong with the concept of a park and ride, but when your entire rail network is nothing but park and rides that only work at rush hour, that's a very dysfunctional transit system. Proponents of commuter rail will argue that it's necessary to have these systems. Otherwise, urban city centers will be flooded with cars from the suburbs. This is an incredibly car-centric view of the world, of course, but it's also like a mafia threat approach to public transit. Nice city you got there. Shame if some suburbanites were to drive into it. I think the existence of commuter rail really highlights just how horrendously expensive car infrastructure is. That even as far back as the 1960s, it was considered cheaper to build a heavily subsidized parallel rail network that was only used for a few hours per day rather than to expand the highway network.
Did that sign say free? You're telling me the GO train was once free? Why did we ever change that?
This should have been a giant flashing warning sign that car infrastructure was not sustainable long before strong towns discovered that it was bankrupting American cities. When I was living in downtown Toronto in the early 2000s, the GO train always frustrated me. Here was this extensive rail network with a major station not far from where I lived, but it was totally useless to me. For example, I once went to a friend's party in Guelph on a Sunday and wanted to take the GO train home because I'm a train
I don't know. The footage was black and white. So at a time when black and white video existed, it was free.
Train-loving masochist. Of course, since commuter trains don't run on the weekend, I had to get a hotel by the station and catch the early morning train back to Toronto on Monday.
Yeah.
But the
I've actually done that as well. Like, oh well, we missed the last train, so I guess we have to get a hotel.
biggest problem with using commuter rail for non-commuting trips is that most train stations are in suburban wastelands. They are designed for drivers, which means every suburban GO train station is
I hate this. I've been to like several of these parking lots, like parking lots outside of train stations in the GTA. They're really uninspiring places to be, let's just say. The world was cheaper in monochromatic. That is true. These Technicolor times are really expensive. What's up with not running on the weekends? Because the sole reason that these trains exist is for commuters. So they don't run as often on the weekends, I guess.
surrounded by
They don't even run very often during off-peak hours. So there's like tons of trains during commuter times. But then in like during the day and after 6 or 7 o'clock, they just like go back to very infrequent times.
massive parking lots. So even if you wanted to go to the suburbs outside of commuting hours, where would you go? You're completely stranded without a car.
Yeah, this is the other thing. You can't, if I want to go to Mississauga, where my family lives, I can only get so far before I need to either call a cab or call one of them to like pick me up.
Is this really the best use of the land next to a major rail station connected to the largest city in Canada? In fact,
It's so gross. Why don't we have like at least put like somewhere to like get a hamburger or something?
GO Transit is the single largest parking provider in the entire province of Ontario.
My
Bigger than the
God.
Toronto Parking Authority and bigger than any private parking garage operator. And
My
yet,
God.
almost all of their 70,000 parking spots are free to use, completely subsidized by the taxpayers of Ontario.
That is crazy.
Yet another way that suburbanite drivers are being subsidized by productive urban places. Every person who drives to a GO station, parks for free, and takes the train is enjoying a subsidy. There's no discount on ticket prices for those who walk or for those who cycle to the station, so they built a system that provides financial incentive to drive to the train. There are a few stations around downtown Toronto that do not have parking, and at some suburban stations, it's possible to pay for a reserved parking space to ensure a spot is available for you at the station each morning. But the vast majority of parking is free.
Oh, this is so gross. What, like this is such a ugly. This is why Ontario is just like one of the ugliest places. Is so much of it is just concrete suburban wasteland for car infrastructure. When you think about parking, so much land dedicated to just parking, more space than buildings, I would guess. It hurts. It really does hurt. What is the 15-minute test like? If you lived in these apartment buildings, that would be pretty rough, I think.
Free.
This to me is, oh, this is Oakville.
The station with the most parking spaces is Pickering GO, where they have this surface parking lot, this giant parking garage,
My
and
God.
in case that's not enough, there's another parking garage on the other side of the tracks,
My God.
which requires this huge pedestrian overpass to cross the freeway. At least you can also use this pedestrian overpass to get to a nearby mall, so in that sense, it has better pedestrian access than most suburban stations. Though you still need to go outside and cross the mall parking lot to get there. It's
You think investing in like really efficient bus infrastructure would also be really useful, right? Like if you could take the bus to these trains, it wouldn't be so bad.
really strange to see parking garages this large without any payment gates at all, because it's all free. Metrolinx also provides free bicycle parking at every GO station. for both cyclists who are comfortable cycling along stroads like this to get to and from the station each day. And most stations have access by bus for those who want to pay for both a bus ticket and a train ticket and enjoy subsidizing the people who drive.
That is, yeah, I guess that is part of the problem. Like, if you're already commuting from the train to Toronto, like adding that bus to your commute, that's a lot of time. And then, yeah, you have to pay for the bus and the train. It's too much.
Metrolinx has plans to convert some of their parking spaces to paid parking, and they have talked about converting parking lots to transit-oriented communities, neighborhoods of mixed-use development near GO train stations. But progress on these activities is slow. But thankfully, all hope is not lost. While the GO train was originally built as a commuter rail network, Metrolinx has started to realize that an extensive train network could be.
Yeah, you should at least, like, you should only have to pay once, right? Like, if you're taking the bus and the train, there should be some way to kind of like consolidate those costs. I really hope your tax dollars aren't going to both GO and Ottawa Transit. I mean, if you live in Ontario, you're probably paying different levels of tax, right? So some to your municipality and some to your province.
Useful for other trips as well. For example, the Lakeshore West Line has had all-day train service every 30 minutes since 2013. We've used this many times to visit friends in the suburbs. Yes, I admit it, we have friends in the suburbs. I'm
Wow, cancel this man.
gonna get so canceled for this. But the biggest
And you call yourself a urbanist.
improvement will come with the GO expansion project, where Metrolinx plans to electrify several GO transit lines, run service every 15 minutes or better on several lines, and increase service from 1,500 trains per week to over 6,000 trains per week.
Is this still happening? Okay, 42 upgraded stations, 205 kilometers of new track, 687 kilometers of electrified track. See, maybe that is part of the solution. If it was cheaper to run electric trains, they could run more frequently, maybe. 29% faster, trains running up to 29% faster with 60% lower operating cost per kilometer. I guess, is that a result of them being electrified? 6 new maintenance and storage facilities, 14 bridges upgraded, 11 pedestrian and river grade separations, 2 rail grade separations, 11 road rail grade separate. I don't even know what all this means. 2-way all-day service across 5 GO rail lines with over 6,000 services per week.
This will fundamentally change rail travel in the Toronto area, and I'm really looking forward to it. If you're interested in the future of GO Transit, then you can watch the YouTube channel RM Transit for more information. I'll provide some links in the description. But while there's a lot to look forward to for the future of GO Transit,
That's more frequent than Peterborough Transit used to be. Yeah, and it's trains, not buses.
Metrolinx hasn't exactly stopped digging a deeper hole of car dependency that they'll need to climb out of. The newest station on the GO train network, Bloomington GO, opened only a few months ago, and it is the pinnacle of car-dependent transit. Bloomington GO is in the middle of nowhere, literally. It's in the Greenbelt, a protected green space and urban growth boundary for the Greater Toronto Area, which is theoretically not supposed to have any new development in it. This train station is absolutely massive.
Oh my god.
It has a large surface parking lot with a kiss and ride area for people being dropped off by car.
Do you think this is part of the Greenbelt plans of development? Like, why would they build this infrastructure in the middle of nowhere?
The station is off a rural highway next to a major freeway. Everybody is going to have to drive there. And yet, it has this painted bicycle gutter along the access road to the station. It's crazy that this huge station was built from scratch, and yet this painted line was considered acceptable access by bicycle. This was almost certainly just a checklist item for some kind of sustainable active transportation requirements. Nobody will ever use this painted bicycle gutter. Speaking of checklists, the Bloomington GO station meets the sustainable building requirements to be LEED Gold certified because of environmentally friendly features like solar panels, LED lighting, and low-flow plumbing. And yet, over 90% of the area is dedicated to free parking for over 1,000 motor vehicles.
That is insanely stupid.
I've been saying this for years, but I think it should be impossible to get LEED certification for buildings in car dependent places. Because it would be an order of magnitude more environmentally friendly to build a small compact station surrounded by mixed use neighborhoods within walking distance.
Yes, for real. Narrow bike lane like that on a blind curve feels like a death trap. Good thing nobody will be able to bike there anyways.
Instead, we get this cathedral of car dependency.
My God, it's huge.
Of course, even with a rule like that, this building would still be LEED certified because it's at a train station. But all of this, the parking for over 1,000 cars, the roads in and out, the water permeable pavers,
Yeah, like isn't this considered like really nice to have this? I guess it's called water permeables because like water can seep through this concrete.
the water permeable pavers, the checklist bike shed, and a total cost of over $82 million
It's like state of the art train station for cars.
is here to support this one train platform that serves 4 trains and only at rush hour.
Oh my God.
One platform.
This is so sad.
The ticket prices will never be able to recoup this investment. It's just one more massive subsidy provided to car-dependent suburbanites. This is something right out of 1960s travel planning. It genuinely annoys me that this was built in 2021. And this will forever be a car-dependent station because new developments aren't supposed to be built in the Greenbelt.
Oh, surprise, surprise. Guess you were wrong about that one. Not just bikes.
My biggest issue with car-dependent transit development is that it completely ignores the biggest benefit of public transit. Yes, transit is meant to bring people to where they want to go, but it's actually most useful by being a catalyst to build the places where people want to go. Both the US and Canada were built on their railroads. In the 19th century, most railroads established profitable land departments that would sell the land
2021 spitting out your drink. Yeah. And all of Ontario paid for it. I'm starting to steam. Yeah.
made valuable by the railroad they built. Public transit has an unbelievable ability to build wealth in places, to make places worth going to. But commuter rail tosses those benefits in the garbage, relegating transit to a background activity in a world designed for cars, where the only real benefit provided is that you're not driving in traffic and maybe that you don't need to pay for parking downtown. This is a really sad role for transit, which has the potential to be the largest wealth creation opportunity for cities, if done correctly. Bloomington Go and stations like it will attract development, but not the development we actually want or need. For example, a short drive away, I came across this neighborhood under construction, which is an exurb, a car-dependent suburban development not attached to any city. It's just a disconnected neighborhood in the middle of nowhere, devoid of any context, and nowhere near anything.
Why? I just do not know for the life of me why people would want to live in houses like this. It's like, wow, look at these amazing, beautiful, gigantic houses that have all the modern fixtures, but there's nothing there. This is the type of development that like Doug Ford is going to try to encourage around these new greenbelt developments because there's nothing there. It's yeah, a 0 on the 15-minute city test, yeah.
Now, this neighborhood isn't being built just because there's a GO station nearby, but it's listed as a benefit of the neighborhood on the builder's marketing material, and this is the kind of development that's encouraged by car-dependent transit. The future of GO Transit is definitely promising. Electrification and more all-day service will definitely make a difference. But as long as the GO Transit network is designed primarily as a way of getting to and from downtown, and as long as the suburban stations continue to house cars instead of people, it will always be one thing: a colossal wasted potential. I'd like to thank my supporters on Patreon who pay me to make films that are nothing like.
Damn. So it's all this is highly depressing watching a video like this and knowing that we are pretty much the victims of this type of urban design. Look at this Bloomington go, and it's just completely empty. I wonder what the situation is now. That video was a year old. So there might be some developments, especially I definitely want to figure out how this relates to the Greenbelt as well. Like what they were trying to do at 1492 Landback Lane, they want to make it a development of mansions. Yeah, it's just so gross. Car culture is so deeply embedded. Yeah. So yeah, I want to see, where is Bloomington? Bloomington, Ontario. It's such a weird name. It's a hamlet in Ontario. Bloomington's. It sounds like a department store. Where is it? Still don't recognize anything on this map yet. Okay, Markham. Here's Markham, Vaughan, Oshawa. So wait, what is going out there? Because all the go runs from like Mississauga, Toronto to Oshawa. Like all the go runs over this way. How does the rail line go train map? Okay, here, maybe this is the map. Okay, so I guess I only ever take the line from like Mississauga, this red line over to Oshawa. I guess there are all of these other lines that I never think about. Here's Union. I don't even see oh, there's Bloomington. So yeah, they just why how wouldn't this make sense to connect to this other blue line so that it can like go both ways? I don't know. It's just wild. I mean, for such a long time I've wanted to have, you know, this line extended. You can see here that it goes all the way to Peterborough bus terminal, but by bus after Oshawa. It would be nice if that was trained the whole way. I think that would probably make more sense than getting to Bloomington. Car culture feels like the middle of farmland. Yeah. Hey, good morning, vaccines, baby. Hamilton accessibility is bad too. Yeah, what's it like here on Hamilton? Hamilton is the end of the line, which is kind of shocking. You can take the GO train, or the bus, I guess, to McMaster University and Brantford. Or I guess it does loop around here to go to Niagara Falls, and St. Catharines. Yeah, it's really, it's like the hub and spoke system. It's like an octopus just extending its arms. But you know what they really probably need is like this Kitchener to connect to Hamilton, this Kitchener to connect to Allendale. But I guess what is even like over there? If you wanted to connect Hamilton to Kitchener, what's in between? Brantford, Woodstock. Like, could you connect these things in a way that made a loop, or Kitchener to Barrie? What is this? Does it go to Barrie? Okay, Barrie South. I guess Allendale waterfront is that Barrie? I never look. Okay, yeah. So this is, I'm pretty sure that this is that area there. So the GO train does go to Barrie. I guess what would you connect between Kitchener and Barrie? There's like, I don't know, there's no, like, I've never heard of like any of these cities. Oh, there's Arthur. I always think of them because I work for Arthur newspaper And I'm pretty sure Arthur newspaper in Peterborough is more prioritized on the algorithm than Arthur, Ontario. Like that's how small of a city they are. Are we talking about the Dean Del Mastro Imaginary Railway? We're talking about how inefficient this system is because everything works on a central hub and you can only, it's essentially you have to drive to these stations in order to get to Union in the middle of Toronto. And then if you wanted to go anywhere else, you basically you need a car. You would, if you had a car, you could get from Kitchener to Barrie by train. But since you already have a car, why wouldn't you just drive in the first place, right? Like there's, if you need a car in order to get to the train, you just need to drive. You would probably just drive anyways, right? So there's really not any encouragements. All of this infrastructure exists just so that people can get to work, to and from work in the GTA. I don't know what Dean Del Mastro's Imaginary Railway was, but this is definitely, it's not the best system, but as the video we just watched pointed out, there is potential for it to be more functioning if it's electrified and made cheaper and run more frequently. However, a lot of the problem lies in just the inaccessibility of getting to and from the train in a sustainable way, because you still need a car. Like if you live in any of the GTA suburbs, it's a very car dependent culture. And otherwise you're looking at taking the bus, like walking to the bus, to take the bus to the train, to take the train to wherever you need to go, where you will then again need to take a bus and walk to your destination if you were to depend solely on public transit and not car culture. So it's essentially just non-existent. There's a stretch of roadway in Bradford where you could race the local GO train. Good times keeping up pace. Okay. Bradford, the most Ontario name of all. Bradford, Ontario. There's no loop in the network. It's all dead ends. Yeah, essentially, right? Like, why not? They need to even like complete some of these loops, because wouldn't it be so much more efficient, for example, just to run a single train that goes to Hamilton and then to Kitchener and then back to Union, like completing that loop and getting this orange line also somehow to be part of that loop, you know, wouldn't that be more efficient? Because instead of going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, you're running a loop. And then if you wanted to go from Hamilton to Kitchener, as I'm sure some people do every day, you could also complete that trip. And if you want to, you know what I mean? I guess, I don't know. Maybe one day Toronto will have this figured out. Still not as bad as Eastern Ontario, where they ripped up rail lines 30 years ago. It's always shocking to me that they ripped up rail lines. In Peterborough, did they not pave over the rail lines? Or the what did we have? We had streetcars, electric streetcars. They paved over that infrastructure, which is just like insane to me. Like we had electric streetcars in Peterborough and we got rid of them. And now we would like kill to have it back. You know, it's just wild. There were streetcars in Lindsay as well. Streetcar and rail lines paved over. Yeah, it's just so sad that we like, there must have been a city council or a trend where it's like cars are the future, so we have to invest in cars. And it's just, why would we do that?